Oh. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurudeva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Hari Om and good evening from London. Bhagavan Krishna, in chapter 7 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, he shares a very supportive message with all of his students. He says that every single being is a bhakta, is a devotee. At the same time, he goes on to share that there are different intensities of devotees. He starts off with the least intense devotee, but please note, there's still devotees. And that person is known as a arthi. This person only remembers Bhagavan in adversity. And the example given from our Shastras is of Draupadi. When Draupadi was in adversity, she remembered Bhagavan, and Bhagavan came and helped. More evolved than this is a artharthi. A more intense devotee is someone who remembers Bhagavan in adversity and in prosperity. And the example given from our Shastras is Sugriva. When he was suffering, he remembered Bhagavan, and even when he was doing well, he remembered Bhagavan. More evolved than that is a jignasu, someone who wants to know Bhagavan irrespective of adversity and prosperity. And the example is Raja Janaka. That for him, all was well in context, but his content was always being driven towards Bhagavan. And the most intense devotee, the highest form of bhakta, is a jnani. Not someone who wants to know Bhagavan, but someone who knows Bhagavan. And the example given in our Shastras is Prahlad. Prahlad didn't want to know Bhagavan because he already knew Bhagavan. Why I'm sharing this is because amongst all of us, we are all within this range of 4. Whether we remember self-development only in adversity, or also prosperity, or also because we want to know Bhagavan, or we do know Bhagavan, every one of us has called to Bhagavan, has called towards self-development. And we have been graced, we've been guided with our prayers being answered through Acharya Shankara. For so many months now, Acharya Shankara has been gracing us and guiding us with how to be independently joyous, because this is what we need. We don't need food. We don't need toilets. We don't need stationery. We need vidya, which helps us to remember that our nature is ananda. Coming back to what we studied last week, in Goswamiji's Ramayana, he's describing the Ramayana as a lake. Now in Bharat, if you want to go into the Ganga, or if you want to go into a lake, how do you get into that water? What do you have to go through? A ghat. You have to go through steps. And you go down these steps holding onto a chain. For those who have been to such bodies of water. And if you've not been, this winter, when we have our Chinmaya Inspiration Yatra in Bharat, we will be focusing on northern Bharat. So we will go to Haridwar, and we will go to Rishikesh, and we will go to Uttarkashi and Siddhabari. So if you've never seen a ghat, this is a good opportunity for that. So Goswamiji describes that if you want to get into the lake that is Bhagwan Rama, there are many ghats, and one of them is called the Dina Ghat. When I say Dina, what do you think of? Like Dina Bandhu. Sickness? Wounded? Anyone else? Humble? Dina? Anyone? Dina we tend to interpret as helpless. Someone who's Dina is helpless. And literally that's true. But a Dina, someone who is this Dina Bhava, what is actually manifesting is they know that all of the articles, beings, and circumstances are helpless to give them what they need. So it's not that they're helpless, they now have the awareness that outside of them, articles, beings, circumstances, that's what's helpless. And once you're aware that this is all helpless, what do then? You start to focus on who can help you. That is an awesome message of what Dina is. So it doesn't mean sick, it doesn't mean wounded, it actually means someone who's quite wise. And that's what was shared in the last shloka is we have to be Dina, where our total focus is on seeking help from someone who can actually help us. If you think of an infant, and when they're hungry, what do? They just cry. Because they know that that action is what will bring them that help. So an infant is quite wise. In the last shloka we studied, Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Mananam, it's a very sad shloka. Acharya Shankara is trying to bring out this feeling from us of, hey, do you know that every direction you're looking in, those people can't help you? You should bhaja Govindam, Govindam bhaja mudamate. Know what's important. And what Swami Tejramananda had shared about this shloka, he said, we actually have no right to ask to be saved. If you think of the way that we live in regards to indulgence, in regards to arrogance, what right do we even have to be saved from dependence? And Guruji also shared, if we all got what we deserved, we'd be miserable. But Bhagwan is so gracious that whenever we perform a positive action, he magnifies that 10 times. And whenever we perform a negative action, he minimizes that 10 times. And you know why he does this? Why is Bhagwan compassionate? Why does he love us so much?
It's his nature.
Someone said it's his nature. hetu ki. Ahetuki means without cause, without reciprocity. It is just his nature. Why is sugar sweet? There's no reason. Why is ice cold? There's no purpose. It's simply the nature of sugar and ice. It is the nature of Bhagavan to love us. And when someone loves you so much, so is such a futile word to use. The best way to really show our understanding of that is to reciprocate that love. We move on to Shloka 22, which highlights someone who does love Bhagavan, someone who does love self-development. And I'll introduce this shloka by talking about Prince Arjuna. At the beginning of chapter 2 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, tells Bhagavan Krishna, not only will I not fight, I will not speak. Then you fast forward to Shloka 54 and he asks Bhagavan Krishna, how does a wise person speak? How does a wise person sit and walk and so on and so forth? And Bhagavan Krishna begins answering, how does a wise person think? What is the defining characteristic of someone who is wise? Atmani eva atmana tushtaha. Atmani eva atmana tushtaha, which means the ego is only content by being in the self. So in other words, the only way that you and I can ever be content is when the ego is immersed in the infinite. The only way to really invoke and evoke wisdom is when you and I are content. And this whole shloka highlights that. Please repeat. Ratya charpata virachita kantaha punya punya vivarjita pantaha yogi yoga niyojita chittaha ramate balon matavad Ramate balon mata vadeva. Ramate balon mata tava vadeva. Bhaja govindam, bhaja govindam. Govindam bhaja mudamate. The first line is quarter, is extremely powerful. Ratya charpata. So as you're walking along the road, and especially if you're walking along the road in Bharat, what do you see? Rags. You see pieces of cloth. Virachita, which means you collect all of those pieces of cloth and you put them together, and kantaha, you make a shawl out of them. You know, like people make quilts, where they take patches and put it all together. So walking along the street and you see some cloth and you put it all together and you start to wear that. What this means at a deeper level is whatever comes into your life, you use that, and whatever leaves your life, you don't use that. Whatever comes, comes, and whatever goes, goes. You think those pieces of cloth are planted there? They just happen to come. And one person happens to get more cloth, and one person happens to get less cloth. And the way that Swami Tejomayananda shares this, if it can asakti, then it can jasakti, jasakti too. If it can come, it can go. If we are tuned into the fundamental, then all else becomes functional. if you are tuned into the fundamental, in this case, to be content, every other article, being, and circumstance becomes functional. If it's there, good, and if it's not there, good. If people like you, good, and people don't like you, good. In either way, all is well. All is fine. I'm in London right now, and I was thinking back to my university days. I always become nostalgic when I come to London. And I think about people when they go to class, and it's a cold city, and it's a big campus, and how people complain about going from their residence or their where they live to go to class. The school doesn't give us enough buses, the classes are too far, and so on and so forth. But when you change class to club, to bar, to party, there are no complaints about temperature. You know, the amount of titiksha that everyone invokes and evokes, right? It's so cold outside, no coat. Those $2 for a coat check, we'll save that money. You see, because for a typical student, the party is fundamental, everything else is functional. Rarely is class fundamental, so the temperature is more fundamental. The class happens to be functional. So we live like this, but it's that fundamental which is very different for each person. Punya, apunya, vivarjita pantaha. For such a person who's content with what comes and goes, it's not just materials, it's not just those pieces of cloth, it's also punya and apunya. When merit comes, good, and when demerit comes, good. You know what they do? Vivarjita pantaha. They just leave that on that same road. That's how meaningful merit and demerit is. As meaningful as if you pick up a piece of tree that fell on the road and you look at it and you just leave it in the grass. That's how meaningful. Thinking about this some more, who is yoga for? Who is yoga for? The yoga, the darshana, the path, is only for someone who's ayoga, correct? You can only unite if you're disunited. But if you're one, you can't unite, then correct? So yoga is only for the sadhaka. For someone who's not reached contentment, yoga is useful. But for someone who's reached contentment, when you've gotten to the highest, what use is a ladder? There's no use, right? So here that's being brought up as punya and apunya. Now if you think of ourselves, so intensely we're trying to gain merits, so intensely we're trying to release demerits, but this is just a game of the world. What is punya? Likes. What is apunya? Dislikes. So YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, those are all strategies of the ego, right? This is what Acharya Shankara is saying is, for someone who is content, they are not pursuing a strategy that makes them more successful in the world. Because it's not enough. And we all know it's not enough. But do we know that enough to say enough? You're following the enoughs. We all know that articles, beings, and circumstances cannot give us what we need, but do we know that enough? Because finally we go back to them, right? Which means we don't know that enough. In the third quarter, Acharya Shankara says, for the yogi is someone who is finished using yoga. Yoga is no longer a sadhana for them, they are the yogi. How did they do it? yoga niyojita chittaha. They've taken that mind and they've locked it into that means, and by it being locked into the means, it's now established in the ends. In other words, they're fully steady and fully sincere, so this means is no longer applicable to them. They're a yogi. They are the ends now. When you ate dinner before class, all of us ate dinner, and we used forks. Today we had an Albanian dinner. We were treated to that. Have any of you had an Albanian dinner before? No. This is why you should become acharyas. See the functionality that comes when you focus on the fundamental. So I used a fork to eat my stuffed peppers and the tzatziki sauce and so on and so forth. And after I'd finished my meal, did I keep that fork in my mouth? That dirty fork? Did I put it behind my ear? Or it's in my pocket right now, along with my japa mala. It's a means. And when you've completed the means, or you've reached the ends, now I'm full, you let go of the fork. And this is too beautifully shown in chapter 6 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, where Bhagavan Krishna says, Dukkha samyoga viyoga. Now think of these words. What does dukkha mean?
Sorrow.
Our middle name, correct? Dukkha. What does samyoga mean? Well joined with sorrow. Correct? I wasn't lying about this being our middle name. We are not casually united with sorrow. We are well connected to sorrow. And if it's not us, we know lots of people who are well connected to sorrow. So if I'm well connected to sorrow, what should my strategy be? Viyoga. You need to disconnect from sorrow, but that's only possible if you connect to joy. So that's what's highlighted here. If you're connected fully to joy, that means you've disconnected. That mind is no longer wandering around, searching after likes and dislikes, searching after articles, beings, and circumstances. And you know who you become then? And this is a famous line, quarter, you should all remember. Ramate. Ramate means to rejoice. Rejoice like a balavat, like a child. Unmatavat, like a
Crazy.
Mad person, like a crazy mind. And there's another reading that says, like a pishacha. Pishachavat, what's a pishacha? Bhuta pisacha, a ghost. So, once you get enlightened, you become a ghost. Next week we go from 40 SETI groups to 1. The one that I'm part of. Now think about this. I'll make this so specific. So today I went to a senior kindergarten recital. And they were doing an Australian dance at this Canadian school. And as we were driving back, I'm staying at a home where they have 3 young girls, 5, 3, and 6 months old. And the mother's in the front seat, I'm in the passenger seat. The 2 kids are in the middle, and then the other daughter and Sheila are in the back. And everyone's kind of sleepy. We've been in this recital for many hours. It was only 1 hour, but for me, I was there all day. I just came from there. And this girl starts to say, smokes a lot. And then nobody reacted. And then she says, really smokes a lot. And she was using a word with D, and I know this family really well. We grew up together. So the mother says, are you saying daddy smokes a lot? And we were both surprised because he doesn't smoke, leave alone smokes a lot. And she goes, not daddy, dragons. And we're all just sitting there, all of a sudden dragons smoke a lot. For that 3-year-old, there's no space or time or matter or etiquette or reality right? She is free. Whether people understand her or not doesn't matter. Whether people like her or not doesn't matter. So balavat, like an infant, like a crazy person, and please use this at a very, light level. For someone who's crazy, they're not concerned about social etiquette. They're not concerned about regrets or anxieties. They're living in the present. And I love this alternative reading of Pishacha. See, the baby and the mad person, they're not conditioned by space, time, and matter, by this physical world. And a ghost is not even limited by neither the physical world nor the metaphysical world either. For someone who's content, they become free. They become independent. So now we're on shloka 22, and this idea of being content has come up probably in 22 shlokas. We've been studying this for 22 weeks. We've almost been studying this for 6 months. So are you content? Have I taught you anything different class after class? How you and I can start to be content is when we start training the content. As long as you're focused on the context, you can never be content. As long as you're trying to manipulate articles, beings, circumstances, pleasures, possessions, positions, you will not be this shloka. But if you start to train the content to be content, this is you. You will be that infant talking about dragons. You will be that mad person living in the present. You will be that pisacha who, whether you wear makeup or comb your hair, doesn't matter. See, right now when we don't wear makeup or don't comb our hair, it does matter to us. We may act very non-self-conscious, but we're very conscious. But for a ghost, they're free. So now I'll give you a model to test yourself, to see if you're practicing being content or not. Okay? If you work hard and get what you're working for right away, what should you feel? Grateful. Correct. If you work hard and get what you're working for right away, and you feel grateful, you are training the content to be content. If you work hard and what you're working for comes in time, not the same timeline that you are working for, but it comes in time, what should you feel? Patience is good. Hopeful is also good. Peaceful. You should be peaceful that you have worked with this timeline, but you know that there's another timeline, a divine timeline. Karma paladata, someone who gives the fruits for such actions. So you feel peaceful. And if you work hard for what you want, and you don't get it right away, you don't get it in time, you don't get what you're working hard for. What should you feel? Faithful. You should feel faith that Bhagwan, you should feel faith that life knows what's best for us, and we're not given what we worked hard for because it's not the best for us. Learning to be faithful is more important than whatever we would have gotten from our hard work. If you are grateful, peaceful, and faithful, won't you be content? Won't you stop focusing on the right to results and you'll start to focus on the right to action? You see how Srimad Bhagavad Gita is really infused into our Moha Mudgara course. Oh.